I've been here in New York this week, and I'll be here in a couple more weeks. And I keep telling everybody on the staff, get out of New York. Why? Because of who the next mayor is going to be. The circus show of an election, once that's all over here in New York, New Yorkers may be begging for their benevolent dictator, Bloomberg, to return. You thought he was bad? I think there's a possibility the whole election where Anthony Weiner's privates got more coverage than any of the candidates themselves was just a distraction. I think this theory might hold water because of who I think is going to be the actual mayor. The guy that slipped in that nobody paid attention to, Bill de Blasio. You need to meet him. Watch.
Just talk about the scandals. Here's what I'll tell you in the end. What New York will know about whoever is mayor is, well, it's not Anthony Weiner. It's a diversion because nobody is talking about anybody but Anthony Weiner. Talk about the scandals. It's working for the Democrats and the progressives.
One of the reasons Michael Bloomberg was able to get elected in New York City was because that every other candidate was an absolute disaster. I mean, if you think that Michael Bloomberg was bad, you have no idea. Tonight I want to introduce you to New York's next mayor, Bill de Blasio. Technically, he is still the 2013 Democratic nominee for mayor, but I mean, does anybody really think New York is all of a sudden turn red and vote for the Republicans? No. But who is Bill de Blasio? Well, he's the guy who makes Michael Bloomberg look like Sam Adams. While everybody was focused on Anthony Weiner's sexting, Bill de Blasio came into the race, and nobody was looking. And only now we are finding how deep-seated his hatred really is for all of the principles that this country has always stood for. And in fact, I don't think he likes the country too much. In the past, he has supported violent attacks by the Sandinistas in South America. He joined a rebel group focused on sending them aid. He was raising money for the Soviets. This group had killed tens of thousands of people by 1990. And de Blasio has said about them that he developed an admiration for the Nicaraguan revolutionaries. They gave a new definition to democracy. They had a youthful energy, idealism mixed with a human ability and practicality. Really inspirational. That's a quote. He also dreams of one day forging an alliance between Islam and the U.S., predicting, quote, Islam would soon be a dominant force in politics. That doesn't sound like a good idea. He also thinks that European socialist democratic model is the way of the future, stating in a recent interview that his own views represent a mix of admiration for the European social democratic movements, Mr. Roosevelt's New Deal, and liberation theology. He believes that this country, as it was founded, is rotten to its core, saying, quote, the government should be doing a lot more to help low-income workers and maintain higher tax rates, end quote. This is not coming from me or the Blaze. All of this is coming from the New York Times. Now let me give you some history on Mr. de Blasio, who's now being painted as a fresh-faced idealist of New York City. He was raised by two middle-class liberal activists in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He received his bachelor degree from NYU. He then studied Latin American history at Columbia, and upon graduation became a community organizer at an openly Marxist social justice group called Quixote Center. It once likened America's foreign policies to a policy of terrorism. So much for Quixote. The Sandinista National Liberation Front was a radical group from Nicaragua. When they lost power in 1990, de Blasio joined a group of ragtag activists made up of Democrats, Marxists, and anarchists who wanted to bring attention to this Nicaraguan group. The Sandinistas described themselves as democratic socialists, but they worked to undermine U.S. foreign policy. Reagan defined them a little differently. He said they were communist tyrants. De Blasio's group helped the Sandinistas blow up bank buildings, hold prisoners hostage, conspire to kill leaders, and organize violent protests in the streets. Their plan was to ignite a socialist revolution across Latin America that would overthrow the influence of capitalism and the West. They were backed by the Soviet Union and Cuba. De Blasio even held his honeymoon in Cuba despite it being a violation of the United States travel ban to go there. Even after the Sandinista movement died, de Blasio never renounced his involvement. Instead, he speaks admirably of the group, saying the values he fought for in South America are far from dead anywhere around the world. Boy, is he right about that. So how does a Marxist communist with a history of supporting terrorism get elected to the mayor of New York City? It's quite easy. I've said this for a while. Don't watch what they're doing. Don't watch this hand. Watch the other one. While we were all mesmerized by the fact that Anthony Weiner was still running and how his wife was willing to stick by his side all the way through this trial and ordeal, de Blasio slipped into the #1 spot, and no one paid any attention. And now at the end of this year, he'll call Gracie Mansion his home. I urge you to pay attention. How did all this happen? Sideshows. That's what the progressive media is and wants us to focus on, sideshows. But what we should have really been asking is, what happens after the circus is over? And the answer is Bill de Blasio, a violent revolutionary taking over New York City. And by the way, I don't ask you to believe me. Do your own homework on this. In fact, you can read everything that I've just given you in the New York Times. It's the September 23rd issue of the New York Times. Page A1.
Listen to it in the debate
Holy
last night.
cow.
Go to Washington, fight to bring sanity to end this Tea Party madness, work with the financial community that knows how dangerous this crisis is. But let's be clear, the same Tea Party that Joe Loder reached out to for the support in Staten Island, these are the same folks who are causing this problem. The same Tea Party, the same extremist Republicans who say, let's delay Obamacare or get rid of Obamacare. Well, Mr. Loda agrees with them that we should delay Obamacare. He is enabling the same worldview that has put us in this crisis.
I didn't go to the Tea Party for support at all. They invited me to come to speak, and I went to speak, as I will in any community and any part.
You piece of garbage.
I know.
I didn't go for, instead of saying,
are you kidding me?
I'll go.
Mister, I supported the Soviet Union and the Sandinistas. You're going to tell me that I went to a Tea Party rally?
I'll go to anybody who wants me to speak. You bet. We're all one country. But
Jeez.
I didn't raise money for the former Soviet Union in the 1980s when we were at war with the communists.
Such an easy thing to slap down.
Holy
wow.
cow. But it didn't even come up last night.
No.
The city of New York.
No.
So the idea that I went there for their support is absolutely wrong. But what I will tell you is that regarding the situation, regarding Obamacare, I think it's very important to talk about this. What I basically said is that we need to delay it for 1 year. And the reason why we need to delay it for 1 year is the government doesn't have their act together.
So, I mean, that's all he did. He just backtracked on the Tea Party.
Who's going to win? Who's going to win?
Oh, de Blasio's up by 50.
Yeah, the communist will win.
The communist will win.
The communist will win.
Yeah.
The communist will win. Attention all Blaze staffers in New York. We will always run shows and always have things to do here in New York. But your taxes are going to go through the roof.
Oh.
Your life is going to become a living hell in New York. I want you to know clearly, the company has 150,000 square feet of studio space in Texas where the taxes amount to zero, where freedom is running rampant in the streets. Instead of people that are crazy, wetting themselves, and wanting to stab all people with any kind of a job. Attention, all Blaze staffers. There are planes departing New York daily.
Listen to the ad he's running. Listen to the ad.
There are those who have said our ambition for this city is too bold, that we're asking of the wealthiest New Yorkers too much. We're setting our sights for the children of this city too high.
Oh, I see.
Well, let me say this.
So many people say so many people say, hey, you're setting your sights for our children too high. But we don't want good things for our children.
But listen.
It's so bad.
But listen, this is exactly the message I've been giving to the right for how long now? Listen to what he just said.
Yeah.
There are those who say our vision for the future is too bold.
Yes.
That we're setting our sights too high. Translation, we're going to go to the moon and do these things.
Yeah.
Instead, the vision on the other side is we have to stop Obamacare. We have to stop this. Let's stop. Let's look back and remember and stop. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. Where is the person that is saying there's a bold vision? There's a bold vision for the future.
Yeah, and listen to the way he puts this again.
There are those who have said our ambition for this city is too bold, that we're asking of the wealthiest New Yorkers too much, that we're setting our sights for the children of this city too high. Well, let me say this.
All right.
We are New Yorkers. Thinking big isn't new to us. We are bigger. We are stronger. We are better as a city.
Okay, so that's all.
Wins.
I mean,
he
just spews his communist garbage.
He wins.
Cloaked in we're New Yorkers.
Yep, he wins.
And that's how he's winning this election.
Hope and change.
Oh, it is just stupidity.
It is hope and
it's
change.
It's absolute asinine stupidity.
It is hope and change.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep,
it's the same message.
What did he just say?
Oh.
What did he just say?
He said we're raising taxes on the wealthy?
That's all he said.
Yes.
That's all he said. I'm going to raise taxes. I'm going to expect you to do more. Translation, what Mrs. President said. My husband knows. He knows. You're not going to be able to go back to your old life.
Yeah.
He's going to demand that you do more. Well, that's what he's doing. And if you don't want to do it his way, it's the highway. You have a communist takeover in New York. And New York, you're going to get what you deserve. And I hate to say this, but look at what this city is already like compared to what it was 5 years ago. I was in this city where you were afraid to stop your car in the 1980s. You never wanted to stop at a stoplight because there was somebody who was homeless that was brutal. That because you had a car, you owed them. And it started in the 1970s. And they would come and they would squirt water on your car, take a piece of newspaper that was on the floor, wipe it once, and then slam on your windshield, pay up. And you just prayed every step of the way, just don't let me hit any red lights. Please, please, please don't let me hit any red lights. And if you did, you wanted to be about 5 or 6 cars back from the front. That's exactly where this city is going again. This city is going to be an absolute nightmare because they are pitting people against each other. They are this is the Occupy Wall Street attitude.